of course, we made the trade for Deshaun Watson, and it kind of goes down as probably the worst trade or one of the worst trades in the history of the NFL. You go back and you look at it, we gave up a 2022, 2023, 2024 first round pick. We gave up a 23 third round pick and a 2024 fourth round pick. And then we turn around and we give Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed $230 million deal over the course of 5 years. And it made me think about another trade that kind of fly under the radar. That was a horrible ass trade. When the San Francisco 49ers traded up for Trey Lance. A lot of people don't talk about that trade as being one of the worst trades ever, because you know how we've had all these talks about Shedeur Sanders and the level of competition he faced in college, or whether he was worthy of being drafted that high or not. There is no way on God green earth that Trey Lance in any draft should have been drafted higher than Shedeur Sanders when you go back and think about it. And I think the reason why San Francisco gets surpassed is two reasons. One, you draft Brock Purdy in that same draft, and he just happened to turn out to be pretty damn good. And then you hit on a majority of your draft picks. And it came to my mind because we have a lot of conversation about, well, the Browns drafted Dylan Gabriel higher, so clearly that's their guy, and that's going to be the guy that's going to lead the future. Not always. It don't always work like that, because clearly Trey Lance was the 49ers guy. They traded up for him and still drafted another quarterback. And it just got me to thinking how there has been some pretty bad trades across the history of the NFL, but how they're viewed and how they're judged, I think is based on other factors, right? Because John Lynch hit on most of the picks. The other quarterback they drafted was pretty damn good, and they've been a consistently good team. And it just got me to thinking, if Andrew Berry had kind of hit on every other cylinder, would we still look at this as one of the worst trades ever?
Still look at Watson as one of the worst trades ever?
Yeah. Because if you compare it to that, it's not looked the same way.
If you so for me, San Francisco was good during that time span. That's why it's overlooked. That's why it's not talked about as much. It was a terrible trade. He's not even, I want to say he's a backup now on his third or fourth team with the Chargers. And they gave up a boatload to go up and get him, right? But like you said, because of how good they were during that time, because of how Brock Purdy turned out, things are okay. At the end of the day, it's about winning. If you can win, all else be forgiven. All else is forgiven. Like, there's no pointing the fingers. Oh, made a bad pick. That's all right. They went to what, 3 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowls during that time. Like, they actually were exceptional, honestly, during that time. Last year was a down year for them. So if you look at Andrew Berry, what he's done, if he hit on those things, hit on other draft picks, the team wouldn't be as bad. So yes, it wouldn't be as bad, but it would still be a bad trade. Because to me, I don't know who else would be playing quarterback. Like, like Deshaun Watson was the guy. They had another guy in Brock Purdy. We didn't have nobody else here in Cleveland. So it would be a different story, right? And now if you mess around and went to the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, if you went to the Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield, whoever the case may be, all right, cool. But you didn't. Like, so it's hard, man. That might be one of the worst trades in sports history. Like, in sports history overall. I wonder how many games have he played, Earl?
19,
230 million guaranteed.
19.
But 19 games. And how many wins?
I don't know off the top of my head. I ain't got that set on.
Few and far between.
Not a damn enough. Not a damn enough.
His stats you just pulled up would be decent for a regular season. But like not for the years, he's been here. You see what I'm saying? It don't add up. It don't add up.
What you think, Jay?
Well, I look at it like this. I think there's 3 deals that you can look at and you can learn from. You go back and we talk about the contract. Go look at the contract the Denver Broncos gave Russell Wilson. That contract was crazy. And they paid him to leave. They did what people said you should do with Deshaun Watson. They took a massive cap hit. Was like, we'll move you up out of here. And by the way, that year, he was very efficient for the Broncos, but they just felt like, no, we can't win with this. So what did they do the very next year? They went out and drafted a rookie quarterback And when you get Bo Nix and he performs and they go to the playoffs, guess what? Nobody mentions, no one says anything about Russell Wilson. I can go back a couple of years prior to that. You look at the RG3 trade. Look what Washington gave up to get RG3. It was a king's ransom. Same draft. They took Kirk Cousins in the 4th round. RG3 flames out. He gets hurt. Had a great first year. They move Kirk Cousins right into the mix. Guess what? Nobody speaks about that because they had a guy doing it. So, like, when you look at the 49ers and Trey Lance, there's two things that they get credit for. The thing they get credit for, and what I would like to see them do more in Cleveland, is when something isn't working, let's be proactive. Let's not sit on our hands. They moved up and understood that we paid a lot to get Trey Lance. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to perpetuate the cycle and keep letting him sit here and play all these games and wasting the prime of our team. I'm going to go to the owner and say, listen, he ain't very good. We swung and missed on that one. I think this kid over here in the 6th, 7th round pick can play. We're going to build around him. And they said, okay, let's see what you got. So if you can get a quarterback in this draft, or Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, to be a starting quarterback, I guarantee you no one will think about Deshaun Watson anymore. They just won't, because you have a franchise quarterback and you got him on the cheap. So you can't just make swing and miss. You got to actually do something to rectify the situation.
Yo, that kind of leads into like where we started at. So all three of us read the article by Dan Lobby of Cleveland.com, who basically, talked about the collusion that the NFL owners had after the Cleveland Browns gave Deshaun Watson $230 million. I think your last episode on the Ultimate Browns was about this. I'm pretty sure everybody watching this episode seen that, man. If you haven't seen it, go back and check it out after that. I'm going to reference the article. I'm going to let you set it up, Cecil. We're really interested to hear where you stand because you actually play in the league, so you can kind of speak to it a little differently. But essentially, after the deal was made, there was a meeting in 2022 with a lot of the owners, and I just read verbatim what is here. The Watson contract got the attention of NFL owners during a closed-door meeting in 2022 at the spring meetings. The NFL Management Council, which advises teams on handling certain situations, specifically discouraged similar guaranteed contracts, which the podcast that this article reference explained. The arbitrator in said case concluded that the NFL MC message was not purely educational and informational, as the NFL contends. It unmistakably encouraged the owners to reduce the trend of increasing player guarantees. The article goes on to say Commissioner Roger Goodell himself was involved in crafting the message, emailing general counsel that there was a big concern, quote unquote, about guaranteed contracts, stating, if we wait to see how it falls, it will be too late. The article goes on to reference that there was several text message exchanges between general managers and owners of NFL teams, basically outlining future deals that they had in place for guys that they were looking to sign or extend, and basically taking shots at the Cleveland Browns and how they went about doing their business. In a nutshell, it looks and seems like that the NFL, basically concluded to make sure that nobody signs a fully guaranteed deal again. The second part of this, which was really interesting to me, was former Cleveland Browns offensive lineman J.C. Tretter basically called out Russell Wilson. And you mentioned his contract earlier, where he basically said, he had the opportunity to change the narrative because in his position, Tretter was arguing for players to get fully guaranteed contracts in the NFL. And in a nutshell, he feels like Russell Wilson effed all that up. So, based on, what this article says and some of the things that you talked about, it clearly looks like the NFL concluded against giving players fully guaranteed deals going forward. And unfortunately, it's because of Deshaun Watson was horrific. How do you feel about that? Talk to me about your thoughts on this.
Well, listen, I think we can separate two things. I think one is the play from Deshaun Watson on the field. And then the second thing is how business works, how business should be working, and whether or not there's a separation of individual teams, and should teams be able to group and pull together one beehive mindset that says, this is how we're going to work and this is how we're going to move. I think one of the most damning things is in that article, they also talked about the negotiations with Lamar Jackson. First and foremost, they did not like that he didn't have regular representation, because they use that a lot of times to say, okay, you know how this works. We're going to we're going to do this. There was a text message Lamar Jackson sent to the owner and said, I'm going to push for a fully guaranteed contract, even though I know NFL does not want to give those out. They have the meeting with all 32 teams of Roger Goodell after the situation with Deshaun Watson. And they found it funny that when Lamar Jackson requested a trade, the two-time MVP did not receive one phone call. Zero. A two-time MVP in his prime receives 0 calls for a trade. That is because they have already put the word out. This is what we're doing. Deshaun Watson, yeah, we're not doing that no more. And so if we stand together and Lamar Jackson wants a new deal and he wants to, play the system, well, we're just going to make it available to play, because ain't nobody else going to play ball with you. And so that is, to me, that's collusion at its finest, word. It's the quintessential of collusion. So a lot of people, it may not hit on the same way, because a lot of people in my DMs and a lot of people on Twitter is like, so what? We already think the players get paid too much money anyway. So they're good. The NFL is great at understanding that the sentiment will always roll with the owners for some reason. I think people just be confused. Maybe they think they're going to get a bunch of money and they're going to get welcomed into the fold. Y'all ain't never going to be welcome in the fold. Y'all regular people, you might just call it what it is. But to me, I think the biggest part of it is I feel vindicated, because I said all along, whether you want to talk about Deshaun Watson or not, when they gave him the 6 games, it wasn't based on what they were talking about. They brought in, I think, Sue Robinson to give him the 6 games. They gave him 11, not because they thought he was over the top doing something wrong. They gave him 11 games to put Jimmy Haslam in punishment, timeout. Yeah, you going to pay all that money? You going to use them draft picks? We're going to make it hard as you know what for you to get any continuity, anything, because he's going to sit these 11 games, and we're ready to get him up out of here permanently. He'll never get another job again. So I think when you look at it, Earl, it just shows you the mindset and how the league moves, and I would not be surprised if it moves the same way in contracts, draft positioning, free agent dollars. They are in lockstep. This document to me was a smoking gun.
You're the only former NFL player that's on this panel. What was your thoughts behind it?
Ain't no surprise. There's been smoke that the NFL, well, I'll put it this way. They want to keep their power. Look at the NBA. It's guaranteed contracts. The power belongs to the players. The players have the power in the NBA. The NFL is like, no, sir. If we start giving out guaranteed contracts, then that gives the power to the players union. Now they have all the power of what they want to do, what they can do. And just look how much LeBron and Chris Paul and all these guys, they speak up in the NBA. You don't have that same thing in the NFL. You just don't. And they want to keep it that way. They want to keep the power structure to them. So it's no surprise that, and I guarantee you that happened. That's not a surprise at all. That owners were like, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And me make sure you don't do this. And I agree fully with G. Bush in saying, because the Browns were the outlier. The Browns made that decision to go over because they already offered him one contract in the trade to the Houston Texans. And then they came back with another contract that was just absurd, that Deshaun and his camp was like, we can't pass this up. I'm not even sure he still wanted to come to the Browns, but he's like, I can't pass this money up, right? This is absurd. So I completely agree with G. Bush. Like, hey, the other owners are like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Why would you do this? because this can be a power shift. So going back to G. Bush and that text from Lamar Jackson and what happened from there, that's not by accident. They working together. They're working. It's a
So
business. It's big business. And where it's big business, I hate to say it this way, where there's big business and there's big money, there's corruption. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
so before we even go to the player side of it, I think I think everybody is right, but I think it's messed up. I think one bad apple spoiled it for the rest, because
Who's the
there are
bad
going to
apple?
be guys that's going to come down the line that is going to boil their ass off and do everything that they need to on and off the football field. And somebody is going to look and say, man, this man deserves a guaranteed contract, fully guaranteed, and he won't get it. Now, back to this article, right? JC Tretter. It says he also called Russell Wilson, quote unquote, a wuss, and then said of Russell Wilson, instead of being the guy that made guaranteed contracts the norm, he's the guy that ruined it for everyone. After he was released, he retired, and it goes on to say, among the many things Tretter was championing for was fully guaranteed contracts, something the NFL had held firm on in the CBA negotiations. I guess let me start with you, Cecil, on this. As a former player, do you believe NFL players should receive guaranteed contracts? And if so, how do you think that should look?
Hell yeah. Like, excuse my language. I've been
No,
cussing
you
a
can
lot.
say hell yeah. No, that's good. If that's PT approved, you
But
good.
absolutely, it's one of the most dangerous sports. And to me, it's not even about the full, like, a guy gets like $100 million contract and 60 of it's guaranteed, right? You cut that 60 in half from taxes, and depending what state you play in, like, to me, it's about how much is guaranteed the entire contract, right? You can put all these numbers into place. I can probably name any player. They'll take a 3-year deal, fully guaranteed. I get all of my money. A 3-year, that's less money than what you would get if this was a 6-year, 5-year deal. They'll take that deal if it's fully guaranteed, because it's more stability for that particular individual, that family, whatever case may be. The game is violent, as you all know. G. Bush, you know, the game is violent. It will take you out in a heartbeat. So to have some type of security, to have some type of, forget the guaranteed contracts, what about health insurance outside of 5 years? You know, after I retire, I have 5 years of health insurance, and that was it. That's all we get. I completely lost my knee. Like, I was 2 centimeters away from getting my knee amputated. And we only get 5 years of health insurance after you retire. That's why the owners don't want you all to have, like, the players that have any power, because that's what they're fighting for. What JC Tretter was trying to do, he's trying to get guaranteed contracts. He's trying to get health insurance. It's a lot that goes into it, not just the guaranteed part, right? So for him to call Russell out says a lot, because Russell's in the mix. And what he's saying is Russell was focused on Russell just getting as much money as he can and keep it moving, not thinking about the bigger picture, right? Not thinking about the bigger picture and everybody that's not played yet, that's coming into the league, that's there already. That's why JC's mad, right? So it's hurtful. It's frustrating, because it's, your life can change that fast. And anything can happen in normal life, right? But when you play this game of football, your life can change in one play. I mean, I watched a guy in the Super Bowl run off the sideline, tear his Achilles.
Crazy.
Like, just run off the side, excited to get in the game. Boom, run, tear his Achilles. Like, one play can change your life, can change everything how it's supposed to go. And we can't even get health insurance. We can't even get fully guaranteed contracts. You can't even. It's a lot, man. And like I said, it's corruption. It's a big business. And people are like, oh, you guys are getting millions. Yeah, we are. But it's levels to it. It's levels to it. And I think a lot of fans don't understand the details and what we do and don't get. Right.
Man, G, before you go, because I got to follow up. Like, yeah, I ain't gonna lie, that sucked to hear, because, like, this is my friend. Like, that's not just my coach. This is my friend. You feel me? And to know, like, dude, you worked your ass off to get to the NFL. And so because you're so dedicated to your craft to get to the maximum level, your experiences and opportunities in the everyday world are limited based on us, like compared to us, right? And so when your life changes like that, and then you back out here, it sounds like they don't even give y'all the resources and the tools necessary to let alone function. And I think about like, you was a 4th round pick. Thank God you made it to a second NFL contract. When you signed with Houston, did playing in a tax-free state go into your thought process? Like, what was the thought process like into any of that?
You're trying to get as much money as you can. You're trying to keep as much money in your pocket as you can. You want to go to a winner. You want to go to a stable environment, a stable team, but you trying to get as much money as you can. That's what these guys are about. That's what it's about. Yes, guys were like, oh, I want to win a championship. Yeah, you do. You do. But at the end of the day, you trying to get as much bread as you can. And you got to understand too, like, in a lot of those contracts, after the first couple years, they can let you go. Like those guys that sign those big deals after they sign 5 years, 100, whatever, boom, 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 or 60, whatever, boom. Yeah, they can let you go after 2 years and be done with you. You're not getting the rest of that 40 million you were supposed to get in the contract, because only 2 years were guaranteed. There's so many things in the contract that the normal eye doesn't think about. All they hear is the numbers, right? But the numbers don't matter. The numbers don't matter. You got to read the details, the fine print in the contract, and understand what's in the contract. A lot of those deals are 2-year deals, honestly. They'll give you a signing bonus and then you out of there. You're not seeing another 30. You're not seeing another 40 unless you're a elite superstar that's, continuing to ball. But even then, they'll reconstruct the contract, right? They'll go back in and move the contract, restructure the contract, right? It's a lot of games being played, man. It's a lot of games being played when it comes to the NFL. And one side of me is like, it's a business and it's a big business, so I get it. The other side of me is a former player, like, it sucks. Because, yeah, you get yours, but you should be getting a bigger piece of the pie. And everybody that's playing with you should get a bigger piece of the pie. And you look at the other sports, the MLB, the NBA and others, going back to health insurance, if I'm not mistaken, in the MLB, if you were on the 40-man roster, I was told, you're guaranteed health insurance the rest of your life.
It's crazy.
That's wow. That's wow.
Now, I could be wrong. That's what I was told from a former guy. I could be wrong. But how is MLB? In MLB, that's one of the hardest skills to hit a baseball, to play. I get that. But I'm talking about this, the physical part, right? Like, why is the NFL we can't get health insurance after 5 years? Like, it's just things that don't add up, man. It's deep.
It's wild, Earl. I used to work, the company I used to work for, we used to be, all our clients were the major insurance companies, right? So basically, we would do things to figure out how to get insurance companies to pay for people's bills, like they said they were supposed to. But you know how that is. If anybody knows, you go get an MRI. Oh, whoa! He didn't say you could get an MRI. Did you get pre-screened for that? Whoa, you got to send us the letter, and you got an accident and they need it. No, we're not approving that. $3,200 for MRI, things like that. The NFL is smart. Y'all ain't never getting no guaranteed contracts. You know why? Because they don't think the players union is strong enough to even demand it. The way they got the price structure and the pay structure set, it's it makes it even more difficult. Am I correct in saying, Cecil, unless you're getting a game check, you're not getting no summer checks unless you got a roster bonus or a workout bonus. But am I correct in saying when you get paid, it's them game checks?
So it's like 6 months worth of checks, right?
That's it.
So guess what? If you is an undrafted guy, you a late round guy, you are a dude that ain't really a top-notch dude that got to the second contract, guess what? In the summer, you starving. Your mom still got bills. You still, kids need to go to private school. You still need to be putting down payments on. You can't tell your girl you ain't going on vacation. So what happens when you strike? What happens when you strike? The quarterbacks will be fine. Quarterbacks will be good. They got the big bonuses in the contracts. But the rest of these little third-round defensive tackles and second-string offensive linemen, they will never, ever co-sign going on strike. So the league knows that by Jump Street. And the reason why J.C. Tretter is so upset is he understands that guaranteed contracts will never be changed unless they get the most glamorous position in the game to band together. If Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and the Mannings and everybody said, listen, we're not playing unless the rest of our people back there that's helping protect me, my defense, my safeties, until they get guaranteed deals. And the quarterbacks have enough cachet. They got to, if Patrick Mahomes pull up and said, I got a $500 million deal, but let me tell you, it's only 2 or 3 of them years is guaranteed. So I'm fighting for guaranteed contracts, not for just quarterbacks, but for everybody. People will wake up and pay attention, and they might be able to get something done. That's why J.C. Tretter was so upset, because he's trying to fight and build for something. And Russell Wilson's like, what you mean? I'm not going to turn this little quick $80 million down. I'm good. I got Sierra.
So when I worked for the city, of Cleveland, right, and Earl B. Turner Clerk of Court's office, you had your starting pay rate, and then you had we got raises annually every year, right? That was in the budget, and I think it was like maybe 2.26, 2.22%, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And so based on where you were, in said position, that's what it was. And I think the NFL needs a salary floor and then a salary cap per position in order to guarantee fully contracts to everybody. Because I think about people or the stories I heard. I think I heard a story once. Antoine Randall, after he retired, he found it hard to just walk up the stairs on a day-to-day basis. And I think he was like 29, 30 years old, right? I think about, somebody like Percy Harvin and all the things he went through with the concussions and head injuries and things like that, that kind of derailed what was a really, really promising NFL career. I think about, quite honestly, watching you lay on that field, after you caught that last pass from Jameis and really just not knowing what was next. And so I feel like NFL players definitely deserve guaranteed deals. It is a very, very violent sport. It's a very dangerous sport. We went viral the very first time because DeMar Hamlin damn near died on the field, and you laid out perfectly, what some of the issues was inside the league. And to know that these dudes from the tender age of 6 or 7 years old is putting everything into this one goal of making it to the NFL, when really the return on investment is slim to none, unless like you a megastar or a quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's a damn shame that somebody like Jamarcus Russell is set for the rest of his life. And he really didn't put in the work that this man put in. You see what I'm saying? To get to where so like something has to be done. And I just think if the NFL, they can help themselves with all these out of control quarterback contracts, in my opinion, if you had guaranteed contracts and the rates differed per position. I think if everybody eats, the game is more fun. I think like you can do a lot by keeping competitive teams together, because one of the aspects of signing these quarterbacks to these huge ass deals is there's no money left to fill out a competent roster across the board. Right. And so if you want to help you and help the product, you can bring the guaranteed money down, but just make it guaranteed, the full contract, right? Like, there's no reason why $100 million fully guaranteed for a quarterback that's the top quarterback, that ain't asking for too much, right? Or the top running back giving him 60, 70, that's not asking too much. The collusion part of it is crazy, and we've seen it so many different times throughout the history of this league, right? And in so many different ways, from small things to grand things. Think about when the Browns drafted Trent Richardson. Trent Richardson was so awful that they got together and said, you know what, it's going to be a minute before we draft a running back in the first round. Right? It was a minute. I think Ezekiel Elliott was the first round running back drafted after Trent Richardson. Think about it. Top 3 pick, he was that bad. Or at least the top 5 pick in the first round, should I say. But it had been so long since a running back went in the top 5 because Trent Richardson was that bad. And who's to say the NFL ain't get together and go like, ain't no way. And if we being honest, after this article came out, you go back to the whole Shedeur Sanders draft process, and then you hear everything about how Shedeur Sanders is performing in these practices and what the veterans think, and people who actually got that third trained NFL eye and what they think of him. It's like, man, ain't no way in hell this dude was a 5th round talent. It's no way in hell that was the case. And so you see examples of this throughout the league on many different factors all the time.